but we've got, is it Miles?
Yeah, hello.
How are you, Miles?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Good. You're calling from Hattiesburg, Mississippi?
I am, yes.
What's the weather like?
It's not too bad, actually. It was kind of miserable. It snowed here the other day. I'm originally from Syracuse, New York, and I didn't think that it actually snowed this far south. But okay, well, I have an issue I've been grappling with for a little bit, and I was hoping, I really respect your opinion. I was hoping you guys could maybe help shed some light on it. I've been atheist for as long as I can remember. And since my morals are essentially not dictated by Scripture, I find that on a day-to-day basis, ultimately what's dictating my sense of morality is anything that I can do that increases the happiness and decreases the suffering of other sentient beings, much in the way that Sam Harris describes in his book. That's basically what's kind of defining my morality. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't think there's anything that's more visceral or fundamental to the human condition than that. I mean, that's my personal feeling. With that in mind, I followed that notion to its logical conclusion several years back, and I became vegan. Mm-hmm. I understand, and I have to preface this and qualify it up front. I understand that atheism is not equivocal to veganism. But I'm really having this hard time of escaping the notion that the two make pretty good bedfellows. Now, the question I had for you, I mean, I'm going under a couple assumptions. One is that you would also roughly subscribe to my notion of morality in some sense, and two, that you are not vegan.
Not vegan. Are you talking to me, Tracie, both of us, or what?
Both.
You want to go first? You want me to go first? Or?
Yeah, I was vegetarian for several years in college for basically the same reasons you're describing.
Yeah.
At the time, I wasn't a Christian, but I was a theist. And in my mind, part of what drove that decision was that I felt that it was not natural for human beings to be eating meat.
Yep.
But I'll never forget this video that I saw of chimpanzees hunting down and killing and eating a monkey live, which changed my view of primate diet in a huge way. People have a odd situation where we domesticate animals. Most animals that are capable of predatory acts have a group rule about not eating one another. They survive from the group interaction, like a pack of wild dogs, obviously, if they ate each other, would not survive. So in general, they will work together to kill other things outside of their group to eat those things, and they don't compromise their group unless there's a strange situation or an anomaly. So we have generally an idea of an us-them species mentality that is generally naturally applied to most species, where a group of animals sees itself as us, and like even when you have herd animals that are not predatory, they will come around and sometimes protect a young one, like try to kick a predator and get it away from a baby. So they understand there's an us and there's a them. And what happens with people, I think, is that we have animals like pets, and then we extend that us and them to include, for example, our pets. And we say they're part of our family. And I believe that with people, what happens is that line blurs more and more, and perhaps like you're describing, we might think about it more and more and come to the conclusion that there really is, that the line between us and them is very arbitrary. And all I can say is that it comes down to a personal decision at that point about what is us and what is them, and what you'd be willing to eat and what you wouldn't be willing to eat.
And I'll kind of extend this just a little bit by pointing out that Jainists, for example, are so cautionary about doing harm to any other living thing that they're known to wear gauze masks and stuff so they don't inhale and kill a fly or an insect of some kind.
That's right.
Yeah, it does kind of come down to where you decide to draw the line, because even for ethical vegans, I know plenty of ethical vegans who would have no problem at all, swatting a fly, squishing a bug, and yet these are still, alive as well.
Right.
I have I think in general, from a moral position, we're kind of in the same boat. I have obviously slightly different views because you're right. I'm not a vegan. I'm an omnivore, and I am biased toward my species, and I draw an arbitrary line there, and I draw other arbitrary lines. First of all, I'm not in favor of animal cruelty, and people will say, well, if you're not for animal cruelty, then you should be a vegan because it's cruel to kill an animal. Well, yeah. Yes, but I think that there's a humane, responsible way to do it. If you want to say I should be on board with making changes to the meat farming and manufacturing industry, I'm on board with that. I'm in favor of making changes, but I also recognize that there's practical realities. I don't extend the same moral rights to non-humans that I extend to humans, and I think that is. I don't want to call it a fallacy, but it's a difference in the philosophical position between ethical vegans and those who aren't, yet maintain some of the same ethical principles. And the core of this is that you're right. It would be nice if we never did harm to another living thing, and therefore we should probably not eat meat. But it would also be nice if we extended a lot of other human rights to other animals as well. And that follows logically from the same path that I think you've started with, but it doesn't really make sense to me in any kind of practical way at all. I'm fine with recognizing that there is a difference between humans and non-humans, and I'm fine with being biased toward my species. And what I am willing to do, though, is afford the same rights to eat me to the animals that I eat. When a shark decides to attack me because it's hungry and wants some food, I'm not going to say that it's immoral or unethical of the shark. It's the natural way that sharks are. I realize that to most ethical vegans that is a lame cop-out, but I'm fine with it actually. And I've had lots of discussions. You're not the first person to call in to ask or even write in an email to ask, why aren't you a vegan? If you're an atheist, why aren't you a vegan? And I'm glad you pointed out that one has nothing to do with the other, because that was going to be my first response. Yeah. Based on that that there's no. I mean, you could be an atheist and
well, you could be an atheist and be Joseph Stalin. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Yeah. Getting back to, what you said, like a shark attacks you, that's the natural order. But a shark, by necessity, has to be a carnivore. It has to eat meat. And I guess with humans, we don't have to eat the meat. So
let me ask you this, and this question actually comes from Russell. He raised it last night at a party. Okay. You're familiar with Star Trek, right?
Vaguely.
So let's say that we develop a future technology where we are able to molecularly synthesize meat. No animal had to die, but it's now meat. Are you okay eating that now?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
Because I feel that the health benefits of not eating meat far outweigh the benefits of eating it.
And see, I feel the exact opposite. I feel that the health benefits of eating meat far outweigh the benefits of not eating meat. I also recognize that we're all speaking from an extremely spoiled, privileged position. Whether or not this idea that you have access to all of these wonderful foods from all over the place because you live in the wealthiest country in the world, and we're in a privileged position as a superpower, you have access to all kinds of things. There are people for whom ethics don't even enter into it. It is essentially a necessity that they continue to eat meat because that's what's available. And by the way, there are plenty of people starving, meat or not. And my only response is that if we're going to prioritize things, creating a world where we're not killing animals for food isn't really on my priority list.
Okay, but for me, it goes back to the whole might doesn't make right. I don't think that we should eat the animals just because we can. But that's not what I said. That's not what I'm advocating. I'm not saying because we can do it, we should. Okay, I guess we'll just say that again then. What are you saying?
I'm not claiming might makes right. I'm not claiming that it's ethically right or an ethical obligation or duty, or that because I can go, kill a chicken and cook it that I should. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that in my case, my position is, the default position for me is that I'm going to eat meat until somebody can demonstrate a reason why I shouldn't. It's not a might makes right. This is the default. It's the people who claim that I have an ethical burden to not eat meat that have the case to make.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess the reasons why you shouldn't eat meat, I mean, there's several. I mean, the environmental reasons are overwhelming.
Really? Like what? I mean, because, when we send people out to hunt and kill for sport in order to reduce animal populations, in order to protect an ecosystem, might as well eat those. Is it unethical to eat roadkill? I mean, I realize it's probably unhealthy, but...
Well, I mean, why is the roadkill there to begin with? It's because we impinged on the animal's environment and we ran them over.
All right, is it unethical to eat an animal that dies of natural causes?
No, it's not unethical, but again, this goes back to my argument that
No, it doesn't go back to your argument. The key there is, as soon as you say that it's not unethical to eat an animal that died of natural causes, now you've entered into a slightly different area, because now you're saying that it's not the consumption of animals that is unethical, but the method by which you go about acquiring the animals that's unethical. And I'm already on board with changes in that area.
Correct, but you asked that you wanted to know why shouldn't you eat the meat. Mm-hmm. And my stance is that it is unhealthy. I mean, if you look on the American Heart Association's website, they have numerous instances where they list that diets that contain meat are more unhealthy than plant-based diets.
I simply don't believe it remotely, and I can answer it with one word, evolution. We evolved as an omnivorous species. Our diet, just the fact that you can supplement for meat, that you can take vitamins to make up for what you're not getting in meat, or you may be able to find specific vegetables and nuts and things that can provide you with those. That is, as I mentioned, part of living in a spoiled society. If you were living, hundreds of years ago, or perhaps less, or in some other area of the world now, you wouldn't have the option to have a properly healthy diet that doesn't include meat. But also, there's the problem that just because you can eliminate meat or reasonably substitute the nutritional value that you get from meat doesn't mean that you necessarily should, or that it's equivalent or better. But
can I ask you something, Miles?
Sure.
Have you ever seen a great white shark devour a seal?
Of course.
How do you feel when you see that?
I feel that is the natural way, because sharks eat seals. Sharks require seals. There's a high fat content in the seals.
Wait a minute. Just a second. No, how does it make you feel to watch that?
Indifferent, I suppose.
So
see, I actually cringe.
I get disturbed by it. I can't watch things like that. For example, if that happens to come on television, as much as I like to see tigers and lions, if there's a documentary, if it's going into the hunt, I will tell my husband, change the channel, because I am not going to watch killing for entertainment. To me, the idea of the suffering is what pains me. Like, I sympathize with the animal that is being killed as a painful experience and a disturbing and stressful and frightening experience for that animal. I, however, cannot say that I think the shark is wrong to do it. I can only say that I know he's causing a lot of suffering to that seal, and yet I have to admit that it would be irrational for me to call it immoral. When it comes to myself, I, for example, purchase cage-free, farm-raised, hormone-free, chicken. I won't eat beef because I don't feel like we've perfected a humane way to kill beef. I won't eat anything that's boiled alive. There's certain things that for me I say, that's just over the top, too much. I can't take that. Now, but that's that's what I can personally deal with or not deal with. And everybody has a different level of that.
And actually, because we got full calls and we want to get to Tracie stuff, I'm gonna cut this short. But I do want to say that I'm not indifferent to your position or your argument. I don't think that ethical vegans are out on a crazy limb, and I don't think that they're bad people. I just
Okay.
don't happen to share that particular view, and I don't necessarily consider myself unethical for not sharing it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thanks, Miles. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. No problem.